What's going on? It is Monday, May 18th, 2026, and we have a moderate 4 out of 5 risk for severe thunderstorms today, and a larger enhanced light and marginal risk stretching from portions of the Central Plains or Southern Plains up through the Central Plains into the Midwest and into the Great Lakes region. We have a significant tornado risk today. I'm talking about a 15% SIG 2 risk for tornadoes. So this means we could see EF3 plus strength tornadoes through portions of Kansas, Nebraska. You can see up there through even northwestern Missouri, potentially southern, southwestern Iowa. So we need to discuss that. Over the next 5 days, we're going to see a lot of rainfall for the Southern Plains, Dixie Valley, portions of the Ohio Valley. So I want to discuss that as well. And I also want to talk about the tropics. The waters are warm enough for tropical cyclogenesis now out there in the Western Atlantic Basin, and the GFS is seeing some hints that we could see potentially some sort of spin up over the next week and a half. Still pretty far out, but we're getting closer to hurricane season, so I want to discuss it. All right, let's get right into the video. Here's our severe risks for today. Like I said, you've got that marginal slight, enhanced, and moderate risk. Let's open this up. 1 million people in the moderate 4 out of 5 risk. You see Wichita, Kansas, Topeka, Kansas, Salina, Kansas, Manhattan, and Hutchinson, Kansas. 5.8 million people in the enhanced region, 42.9 million people in that slight, and then 29.2 million people in the marginal. Let's break this down. Here's our tornado threat today. So obviously a lot of states in this, from the Southern Plains up through the Midwest, Great Lakes region, even including Michigan and Indiana. But we have that SIG 1 and SIG 2 threat, meaning EF2, EF3 plus tornado threat out here through portions of Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and Missouri. So if you're out here, make sure you have a way to receive weather alerts today. You see especially some major cities in this SIG 2, Salina, Wichita, Topeka, everyone in between. Again, make sure you're paying attention today. Let's take a look at the wind threat today. Much larger wind threat, and you can see that SIG 1 also encompasses portions of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, and Iowa. And then we'll go to our hail threat today. Pretty significant hail threat today. 45% risk, SIG 2 risk for hail. So we're talking about grapefruit size hail possible out here through portions of Kansas and Nebraska. Actually, even up there into Iowa and Missouri as well. All right, I want to take a look at our day 2, and we're going to break down today's severe weather threat and much more. But right now, I just want to show you guys the risk zones. So here's our day 2 risk zone, large, marginal, and slight, stretching all the way from Texas up through Maine. Now, if we break this down, our tornado threat, Michigan, portions of northeastern Ohio, Cleveland, you're right on the edge of that 2% tornado threat tomorrow. And then you can see portions of Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Now, let's take a look at the wind threat. This is mostly just a wind threat tomorrow, obviously for portions of the Southern Plains up through the Ohio Valley and the Midwest. And then there's that hail threat as well. The most significant hail threat being down in Texas tomorrow. Dallas-Fort Worth, you're actually in that SIG 1, meaning we could see 2 to 3 plus inch larger hail tomorrow. All right. Let's take a look. Actually, I'll show you our day 3 really quick. So here's our probabilistic for day 3, just a 5% risk for severe weather out there through portions of the mid-Atlantic, New England, coastal New England, and then over here in western Texas. All right, I want to look at the multi-day Weather Prediction Center precipitation forecast. There we go. Let's move over to 72 hours. Okay, so Southern Plains up through the Central Plains, portions of the Ohio Valley, you could see a decent amount of rainfall over the next 72 hours. We're talking about anywhere between 1 to 3 inches. But as we push out towards 5 days, it starts to get a little bit more significant, especially in the Southern Plains, Dixie Valley region, where we're talking about, you could see some areas here showing 5 inches of rainfall over the next 5 days. Locally, I think you could receive 7 to 8 plus inches if you get unlucky and you get a little bit of banding over some of these areas. So pretty significant rainfall. And then you look out a week and it gets even crazier. So now you're seeing widespread 5 inches. Again, here, locally, we could be pushing over 8 inches of rain over the next 7 days. Also up here through portions of Kansas, Missouri, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, we could see a lot of rainfall as well. Let's take a look at our Climate Prediction Center temperature outlook. Here's our 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. So this is really starting as we get into this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and then pushing into next week. It's going to be warm. Getting into the 8 to 14 day, it's going to stay warm. Now, the Climate Prediction Center still expects potentially a little bit of a cool down in June. We'll see. I feel like they're going to update this, but this is what we have right now. But again, for the most part, in the short to medium term, we're expecting much of the country to see above average temperatures, especially as we get into this weekend and then as we move through the 2 weeks after that. All right, I want to break down the severe weather that we could see today a little bit more. So let's get over to pivotal weather. Here we go. Here's our updraft helicity future reflectivity. Not the best to make forecasts with, but it can help you with the timing of the storms. So here we go today. We do have a squall line currently pushing off east, and I can actually, let me go and show you what's going on with that right now. This is a live look, so we do have, you can see this kind of QLCS pushing through portions of Missouri into Illinois. And let me turn on our warnings. We did have a tornado warning out here this morning, and it looks like it's fallen off. So strong thunderstorms right now, but not severe. But we do expect another squall line, another QLCS to form out here across portions of Kansas, up through Iowa, and begin to push out east. So that's something we're watching, and we're going to get into the details of that now. So as we get into around 1 or 2 p.m., the skies are pretty clear out here, and that's kind of the issue. We do expect kind of the clouds to part, and you're going to get that surface heating, and that instability is going to grow, and eventually that cap is likely going to break. You can see right as we get into around 4 p.m., 5 p.m., you start to see some strong to severe thunderstorms firing off, and this is when we could see the threat for strong tornadoes, because you start off in a little bit more of a discrete mode, and then eventually you get into a QLCS, and that's when you get kind of a more of a damaging wind threat. So around 5 p.m., give or take an hour. You know, the timing's never perfect on these models, but you start to see that kind of discrete mode set up, and I'm worried about some very strong tornadoes out in this region today around this time. So late afternoon, early evening into the mid-evening. We're talking about central to eastern Kansas, southeastern Nebraska, southwestern Iowa, and then northwestern Missouri. We push forward into 7, 8, 9 p.m. And really this is starting to look like an MCS, or mesoscale convective system. You can see these kind of northern mode and southern mode coming together. And this is when you could get a strong bow echo or strong damaging winds. This is when you always have the threat for a derecho type of event. Moving to 10, 11, 12, this is moving off to the east. And you can kind of see the bow echo actually right here on the reflectivity. You can see it right here. So this would likely be shaping up to be some sort of damaging wind event, but you can also have embedded tornadoes in a QLCS like this. All right, let's break down these parameters a little bit more. So here's our 500 millibar jet stream here. Pretty decent, much better than we've seen over the last, much more organized than we've seen over the last couple of days. And you can see those shortwave troughs embedded here across portions of Kansas, northern Missouri, southwestern Iowa, and southeastern Nebraska as well. Taking a look a little bit lower in the atmosphere at the 850 millibar level at our LLJ, or low level jet, you've got some very strong southerly winds. And if you compare that to our 500, you've got those southwesterly to westerly winds. So rotational shear, velocity shear with height as well, which of course, that's going to give you your tornado threat. Now, a nice baroclinic boundary setting up here. If you take a look at our temperature and wind barbs map. So this is definitely going to help with our forcing. You can see we kind of have a closed off ice bar here. So we have a low pressure here. We have a low pressure up here as well. So we're going to have that broad area of rotation. We're going to have that forcing in this region. We go and we take a look at our dew points as well. There we go. We got a nice dew point gradient, not the sharpest gradient I've ever seen, but sometimes if you have a little bit of a diffuse gradient, it actually gives these storms or supercells a larger area to latch onto, and sometimes they can sustain for a little bit longer. So it's a pretty nice setup here today, especially across portions of Kansas and eastern Nebraska, again going into Iowa and northern Missouri. Taking a look at our mixed layer cape, plenty of instability. We're not going to struggle with this. We're talking about 4,000 to 5,000 joules per kilogram of cape in this area, mixed layer cape. So this is kind of a combination of the cape throughout the layers. You only need 1,000 joules per kilogram. I mean, you could even do it with less than that for strong to severe thunderstorms. So sometimes I feel silly even showing the cape or the instability when we're in mid to late May, because it's always there once we get to this time of year. Where did I pull this sounding? Let's see. I pulled this sounding, I believe, out of northeastern Kansas. 4,800, almost 5,000 joules per kilogram of most unstable cape, almost 5,000 joules per kilogram of surface cape. But I wanted to highlight this very curved photograph, possible hazard type PDS TOR, meaning particularly dangerous situation. We're talking about an EF2 plus tornado possible, EF3 plus tornado possible likely, maxed out effective SIG TOR param, and 272 SRH storm relative helicity, 28 knot bulk shear down at the surface. So pretty significant setup. You can see that rotation with height with our winds here. Very, very moist down at the surface as well in the low level. So lots of buoyancy. This is very likely to break through the cap. Just a little bit of inhibition, but this is a dangerous looking sounding here, especially taking a look at that possible hazard type photograph. A lot of rotation there. Of course, tons of instability showing up here as well. So that's in northeastern Kansas today. I believe I took that sounding. There we go. At around 6 p.m. right there, northeastern Kansas. So just out to the northwest of Kansas City, actually. All right, so that's what's going on today. As I said, late afternoon into the early evening, especially out in this region here, we need to have weather alerts on. We could see a couple of very strong tornadoes, very large hail, and a damaging wind event, once again, pushing out to the east, especially as we get into 7, 8, 9 p.m. and into later into the night towards midnight. This damaging wind event is going to be pushing out east into eastern Iowa, eastern Missouri. So we're going to have to watch this. We could see some more. We could see some damaging storms to the north as well, some damaging storms to the south as well. But the most significant severe weather today looks like it is going to be through portions of Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and Missouri. All right, taking a look at tomorrow's severe weather setup. Obviously, large, marginal, and slight risk for severe weather. That tornado risk is really just up there through portions of Michigan, like I said, northeastern Ohio, and then Pennsylvania, upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Let's take a look at the setup and timing for tomorrow. Looks like we could see some things get going as we get into around 5 or 6 p.m. down there in Texas. Could even get some strong to severe thunderstorms out there through portions of eastern Texas, maybe Texarkana out there. Little Rock right now, it just looks strong, not severe. You don't see any updraft helicity tracks, but it is possible for some of those storms to be severe. But definitely central Texas is going to get going as we get into the early to mid-evening. And you see these kind of discrete storms up here. Like I said, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, upstate New York, and then getting up into New England. But it does look like there's, at least the latest HRRR, it wants to hold a cap up here. So there's a little bit of, I'm not quite sure if we're going to see this tornado risk dropped, if we're going to see, the tornado risk elevated. There's some weird stuff going on with our capping up here tomorrow. You don't really see anything showing up on the future reflectivity or anything significant showing up on the future reflectivity up there to the northeast. So it's something to watch. And of course, tomorrow morning, when we get a little bit closer, we'll be able to break that down and see if maybe that cap, in fact, won't hold. And we could actually see a lot more stronger, severe storms showing up on our future reflectivity. Our 500 millibar doesn't really look too significant in some of these areas that we're most concerned about tomorrow, stretching from the southern plains up through the Ohio Valley, although you do see some of these short waves up through this region here. You can see all that divergence that's happening down here to the south, but the strongest, the most significant jet streaks are up here in the upper Midwest, where we're not expecting really too much or any severe weather tomorrow. Taking a look at the lower levels. Again, nothing too impressive. It's except for up here in the Great Lakes region and then up there through inner New England. So again, if we do see a cap break and we do see some stronger storms up here, I could 100% see a spin up, see a couple tornadoes up here just because you have a strong, this significant jet streak down at the 850 millibar level. But you need more than that. You need instability. You need some sort of forcing, but you have that 850 millibar shear, that rotational factor and that velocity factor that you need for the tornadoes, or for a tornado to form. Taking a look here at our surface base cape, you have that instability up there tomorrow as well. We're pushing 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram through portions of potentially Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Not a ton up there, inner New England, as we get up there towards Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. We'll see if they drop that tornado risk zone tomorrow. But there is enough instability up there. You have that 850 millibar. It's not too organized. We looked at the 500 millibar, so that's going to make it, I think, a little bit difficult, but not terrible. Not terrible. You do actually have a nice westerly flow moving. I was going to say into a southwesterly flow, but the 850 millibar is pretty westerly as well. It's going to be difficult to get tornadoes up there tomorrow, but again, we'll take another look at this in the morning. It's possible. All right, and taking a look here at our temperatures, we're going to take a look at our temperature and dew points. We do have a nice gradient setting up. So, and you can see our kind of winds changing as we move across the gradient as well. So there's going to be a little bit of vorticity along this line. Not enough to where the SPC thinks we should have a tornado threat in this area, but who knows? They could change that in the morning. But there's going to be some forcing here. So there's also some, I think, capping issues along this boundary here, moving up through portions of Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, through Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. But there's going to be forcing. You can see the temperature gradient here. You can see the dew point gradient here, a little bit of a dry line. So it is possible to get some strong to severe thunderstorms out here through portions of the Ohio Valley up through the Great Lakes region as well. There always is when you have this type of setup. All right, I did want to show you what is going on with the tropics. This is the latest GFS. A little bit quiet. Now, we don't love having a large high pressure really close to shore during hurricane season. Now, this is going to move out and something will probably come in to replace it. But I've kind of seen this pattern repeating itself, and I've been seeing these high pressures set up right off the coast of the southeastern coast of the U.S. When this happens, if we do get some sort of tropical development in the Western Atlantic, the Gulf, the Caribbean, it'll typically steer it right into the States. Now, luckily right now, not much going on. But the GFS does see a little bit of something out here as we push out just past 200 hours out. You start to see some convection and low pressure systems pushing into the southern Caribbean here. And you start to see a little bit of that cyclonic counterclockwise spin. You can see it right down there. Let me clear this. But this is very far out. 200, 250, really 250 to 300 plus hours out. You start to see that what's trying to present itself as tropical cyclogenesis down here in the southern Caribbean. You can see it gets up to 1,006 millibar low pressure system, 1,004 moving over Jamaica, but then it kind of starts to fall apart. You can see the closed off isobars, but it's something to watch only because we're, whatever it is, I don't know, 12 to 14 days away from the start of hurricane season, and the waters are warm enough out here, but it's far enough out that really no one has to worry, because the GFS shows a lot of these systems trying to form at this, this far out that typically don't actually end up organizing or getting themselves together. So nothing to worry about right now. Just thought it was interesting. We're starting to see a little bit of that. We're starting to see something out there on the GFS. The waters are warm enough. All these waters out here are above average. You can see in the Gulf, Northwestern Caribbean, and then out here through the Western Atlantic Basin. You only need your waters to be, you can get tropical cyclogenesis at 74 degrees, but you typically want your waters to be at around 80 degrees for tropical cyclogenesis, which is about 27 degrees Celsius. So you can see all the waters out here are more than warm enough for tropical cyclogenesis. So we can have a tropical cyclone form out here at any time. Now, the warmer the waters are, the easier it is for a low pressure system to go through tropical cyclogenesis and for that tropical storm and hurricane to form and strengthen. So these waters will continue to warm, and those chances to see a tropical cyclone are going to continue to go up, of course, as we push through June and as we push through hurricane season. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, we're entering a super El Nino, which is going to mean we're likely going to have a strengthening subtropical jet, a lot of shear over the Western Atlantic Basin. So if we're going to get any sort of tropical activity out here, it probably should be earlier on in the season if it wants to have any chance of making landfall or having any impacts, because once you get too much shear down here, once our super El Nino sets in, it's going to be very difficult for tropical cyclogenesis or any sort of tropical storm or hurricane that forms out in the tropical Atlantic to cross through this region here. So it's important to pay attention close to home, especially over the next couple of months before the super El Nino or the strong El Nino has really set up, because these are the couple months where we're going to have the highest chance to see tropical activity and potentially see 1, 2, or more tropical landfalls in the States. So let's watch what's happening close to home. That's the tropical update for today. I really appreciate you guys watching. If you like this type of content, don't forget to follow and subscribe and hit that notification bell if you want to be notified anytime I upload a video or go live. I also have an awesome weather Discord with live weather updates every single day. I let you know when I'm going online as well and when I'm posting videos. It's completely free. The link to my Discord is in the description of every single one of my YouTube videos. Again, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you in the next video, or I'll see you in the live stream later today. See you guys.